Should I finance a new phone? Today we're going to be answering that question. When looking for a new phone, there's two types of people. There's buyers and there's payment planners. Buyers are people who buy up front and know they have the funds to make the purchase and feel that they will save money in the long run. And payment planners, on the other hand, look to get under contract or to finance in order to avoid the upfront costs. So basically someone just buys it outright and then somebody else finances it, which just makes different payments throughout a longer time. So which is a better option? Here's a list of pros and cons. So the pros of buying is that there's no contract commitments. It's easier to switch carriers at any time. There's lower monthly bills. There's better plans. And you get the feeling of the weight, or you feel the weight of the purchase all at once. And the cons is the total upfront cost hurts because you have to pay it all at once. And you might not be able to afford the phone you want all at once, so you settle for a cheaper one. So because you can't afford the one that you want, you end up going for one that you don't really want, but that you can afford. So the pros for financing now is that the new one you want, the new phone, you can get the new phone that you want right now, and there's little to no upfront cost, and you don't feel the pinch of getting the purchase all at once. And the cons are that there's you're loosely locked into a contract or into some type of plan, and you have to pay penalties or outstanding balances on the device if you want to leave the contract. You possibly get a worse plan than if you just paid it up front, and there may be some hidden fees that you have to pay throughout the time of your contract or throughout the time of your financing. So the pros and cons are pretty straightforward at this point. So if you don't have $1,000 hanging around, you can't afford a new iPhone or Samsung Galaxy. So the reason people buy these plans is just to make the large payments feel like they're disappearing, because people feel that they can afford an extra like $30 to $40 a month. So when they hear about financing, it just, you think to yourself like, oh, it's just adding $40 a month to my plan for the newest iPhone. That doesn't sound too bad. But one of the cons that this can come with financing and starting to get into that financing mindset is that it can create a bad mindset. What I mean by this is there's another important part of the phone purchasing game, and it's called consumer psychology. So it feels better to pay an extra $40 a month than it does to pay $1,000 up front. And after we're done paying off the phone, we're usually ready to get a new one and keep on paying that tab. That's why companies have these plans, Once you pay off your phone, then you just feel like, oh, now I can upgrade to a new phone. And so you just keep making that payment because you're already used to it. But you're going to be locked into some type of plan or some type of financing thing for a certain amount of time. And if you're unhappy with your phone or you want to switch carriers, then you have to either cancel your contract, you have to pay the outstanding balance of the phone, and you have to pay any early cancellation penalties. And if you didn't have money to pay, for the phone in the beginning, to pay it outright, then you probably aren't going to have the money to pay for the remaining balance. So that means that you end up becoming just stuck. And at the end of it all, they send you a notification that you're eligible for a free upgrade, and then the cycle starts all over again, right? They get you right back into the same thing. And so I want to share a personal testimony of myself. Last year I had a fully paid off iPhone 7, and I was watching a bunch of videos on like YouTube reviewers. I was just watching videos of, I guess, the best phone of 2019 at that time it was. And so I was watching all these types of reviews, and they kept talking about the Samsung Galaxy Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus. And so this was the phone that I wanted, and they were talking about, new cameras, new screens, new batteries, new processors, everything, And so that's what catches our attention. That's what we end up wanting. And so I would go to stores and I would check the phones out, look at them, use them, play with them, and I ended up hearing about financing. And this is I literally found out about this last year, that you could finance a phone. And so it seemed pretty good to me, just paying like an extra $30, $40 a month doesn't sound too bad. And so when they explained it to me I think it was at Best Buy, it just sounded like a really great deal. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And I had just gotten a new credit card, and it didn't have credit history. And the guy told me, he said sometimes not having credit history is better than having a bad credit score. And so he was kind of like just tricking me and like talking me into, uh, signing up for this plan of financing. And so phone reviewers, kept saying that the Galaxy Note 10 was the best phone ever, best phone of the year. And so because of that, I wanted to try it out. Now before this, I had an iPhone 7, like I said, and I'd had an iPhone for a while. I was used to iPhone and I really liked iPhone. But because they were talking so good about the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, I wanted to try Android. And so I decided to get the phone and I ended up deciding to finance it. And it's literally like a month later. And a month later, I had already realized that I wish I would have gotten the iPhone 11 Pro Max instead. So I call my service provider and then I ask them if I can switch, if there's any way for me to switch. And they tell me that the only way to switch is if I pay off the remaining balance on my phone. And so I can't afford it because, obviously I can't afford it because I'm financing the phone. And so I'm talking to this guy and he tells me he would have never let me switch to Android because he says iPhone users can't switch to Android. And so he just tells me, you made a $1,200 mistake. And so I just have to stick with that. So as of right now, I have the Galaxy Note 10 Plus and I'm sticking with the phone for now. I owe like $800 on it still right now. And luckily, I recently got a job, so now I can put payments towards that. But for sure, next time I get a phone, I'm going to buy it outright in cash. So basically, does buying your phone outright save you money? And the answer is yes, it kind of does. It's better if you use the pain of purchasing the phone outright to keep you from buying new phones all the time. Because, if you have to straight up pay that $1,200, it's going to hurt a lot more than just that $30 to $40 a month. And paying it outright is going to give you better spending habits. The added monthly expense of a finance phone won't cost you more, but it could create bad spending habits. So this isn't a thing with only phones. You could do this with cars. You can do this with laptops. You can literally do this with anything, I think, on Amazon too, where you can just finance things and just buy anything and pay it for a certain amount of time. And so this can actually be a really bad spending habit. Like you use a credit card and then you're just paying the interest or whatever, or you're just paying the least monthly payments on your credit card. And of course on credit cards it's different because you have interest and these you don't, but it's just kind of creates that same bad habit. And if you don't have the money up front and you really need a new phone, then go ahead and finance it. You might save money on the phone depending on which provider you choose, but be cautious that you don't just keep on financing.